again, and welcome to another Mordy and Glory Old World video. In today's episode, we shall be casting our ever critical eye over another Old World unit. And once more, we shall be traveling to my favorite faction in the game, the Empire of Man. And we're actually going to be reviewing the last of their infantry units. We've covered everything from state troops, regular and veteran, missile troops, free company, empire archers, and we've even done great swords. But there's one last unit which we have to take a look at, and it is one of the coolest and most flavorful of them all. I'm of course talking about the Flagellants. And so, without further ado, let's summon the Elector Counts! The end is nigh! And charge right into today's episode. As is tradition, let us begin with a brief overview of what the hell this unit actually is. Flagellants represent the religious fanatics of the Empire. There are a lot of reasons why someone might join a Flagellant warband. Perhaps they have lost everything. Maybe their village was burned down in a beastman raid, or their loved ones were carried away by mutants for, well, God only knows what. Maybe they are just gripped by religious fervor. Maybe they believe they've had visions from Sigma. Perhaps they are just mad. Whatever the case, Flagellants are made up of some of the most zealous citizens of the Empire who seek to die in battle, for they believe that the end of the world is just around the corner. Whilst many of the professional soldiers and even the militia in the armies of the Empire look upon Flagellants with a mixture of fear and disdain, none can deny their usefulness in battle. When the going gets tough, when the ranks start to clash, the Flagellants will seek out the most horrendous enemies of the Empire and charge against them with complete disregard for their own safety. A lot of professional troops are happy to see them give it a go. Better the Flagellants try and bring it down under their mad fury than them having to try and take on all sorts of trolls and giants. And surprisingly, through pure willpower, often backed up by a giant Makoff flail, the Flagellants can be quite successful at taking down these big foes. Well, at least that's what it's like in the fluff. But how does this all pan out in crunch? What are they like on the tabletop? Well, to find out, let's deep dive into their unit entry now, and we'll begin with their stat line. Each Flagellant has a movement of 4, a weapon skill of 3, a ballistic skill of 2, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 3, 1 attack, and leadership 5. Now, don't worry so much about the ballistic skill of 2 because they don't have any ranged weapons, and don't worry about their leadership of 5 because they are unbreakable. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty of unbreakable later on when we cover their special rules. You can upgrade one Flagellant to a Prophet of Doom, and he has the same stat line as a regular Flagellant, except he's got 2 attacks. Now, each Flagellant is going to cost you 13 points per model, and that'll cost you 7 points to upgrade one of them to the Prophet of Doom. That might seem like an eye-watering price, considering that they're only weapon skill 3, they've only got 1 wound, toughness 3. It's like almost an Empire State Trooper in terms of stat line, and yet almost triple cost. The thing about Flagellants is you're not paying for their stat line, which is their laundry list of special rules. We'll get to those in a moment. Before we do, we'll just cover off the other little bits from the unit entry. So troop type, regular infantry, need to know that for how your ranks will be disrupted when you get flanked. Essentially, regular infantry have their ranks disrupted by a unit which has got a unit strength of 5 or higher. Their base size is 25 by 25 millimeter, standard infantry. Unit size 5 plus, but no special exemptions or anything around detachments. They can't be a detachment and they can't be a regiment. Either one of the few units in the Empire that doesn't get, infantry I'd say, that doesn't get either one of those rules. They come with hand weapons and flails. Flails are a pretty decent weapon. It takes them up to strength 5, suddenly they are wounding a lot of monsters on 4s, and even smaller monsters like trolls, they're wounding them on 3s. And the AP means that if they're going up against, well, whether it's a lightly armored foe or medium armored foe, they're going to be cutting them down to, at best, most of the time, a 6-up or a 5-up armor save if they've got like full plate and a shield. And if they don't have that, they've just got like light armor and a shield, just light armor, you don't get an armor save against Flagellants. Whether it's the first round of combat or not, they've always got that AP too. As for unit upgrades, as we said, one man can be a Prophet of Doom for +7 points per unit, and one model can be a standard bearer. You might think, oh, where's the musician choice? Well, you don't need to worry about musicians when you are unbreakable. You want to take both those upgrades, by the way. You want to have the Prophet of Doom for the extra attacks, and you want to have the standard bearer. Speaking of close order, let's get to their special rules. Firstly, they have close order. This is quite nice. I did think that the Flagellants would be somewhat like the Free Company militia. They're not like professional troops. I thought they'd end up being open order, but no, they have close order, which means they have +1 to combat resolution, and they can benefit from up to 2 ranks for their rank bonus as well. The next special rule they have is Furious Charge. During a turn in which it made a charge move of 3 inches or more, a model with a special rule gains +1 modifier to its attacks characteristic. So suddenly, you're not swinging around with just 1 attack per guy. You're swinging around with 2 attacks. You get the off. This actually means that they get some of the most attacks, if not the most attacks, out of all of your choices. Free Company, I guess, get 2 attacks because they count as having 2 hand weapons. But not even great swords get 2 attacks. So this is what separates the Flagellants from the great swords. You might be thinking, well, why wouldn't I just take great swords? They've always got that better strength, and that's great, and the AP as well. Well, Flagellants on the charge will get more attacks. They're a bit of a blender unit. You might want to have them in large, long ranks, and then go sending them in so that they just get like, if you have like a rank of 10 Flagellants on the charge, they're going to get 20 attacks. They also have the immune to psychology special rule. If the majority of models in a unit are immune to psychology, the unit automatically passes any fear, panic, or terror test it is required to make. However, if the majority of models in a unit have the special rule, the unit cannot choose to flee as a charge reaction. This is really significant. Don't overlook immune psychology. Right now, there's a lot of chit and chat around the proverbial water cooler of terror bombing people, taking units that cause terror and just running rampant around armies like Empire, which really cap out sort of Leadership 8, Leadership 9. Having immune psychology means that if someone tries to terror the crap out of your army, they won't be able to. And having Flagellants on the front lines, just being shouted at and not caring, just going for it, really, really valuable. Again, it separates them from even stubborn units like Empire Greatswords. Having Flagellants with that immune psychology means that if you counter someone who's trying to leverage lots of leadership and terror shenanigans, you'll have at least one unit you can rely upon hold the line. But wait, there's more. In fact, there's a lot more. We're barely halfway through all of their special rules. I told you that when you were paying 30 points model, you weren't paying it for the start line, you were paying it for this smorgasbord of special abilities. The next one is another buff, Hatred all enemies. This means in the first round of combat, your Flagellants have full rerolls, and you get 2 attacks a model at strength 5, AP -2. That more than makes up for the fact they're only wearing skill 3. Sure, they might be hitting most of the time on 4s. Full rerolls, you're going to be stacking on loads of hits. With good strength, you're going to be stacking on loads of wounds. With good AP, you're going to be causing a lot of casualty. There's still 4 more special rules to go, and the next one is Unbreakable. If a unit with a special rule loses a round of combat, it is not required to make a break test. Instead, it will automatically give ground as it's pushed back by the enemy. You don't even stick in combat, you just give ground. This is really good because if you get charged, lose the combat, your Flagellants give ground, then guess what? They just charge back in next time. And that means psychology, so you know that it's going to make that charge, they're just going to go for it. So they're immune to psychology and they're unbreakable. You just cannot make these guys flee under any circumstances. And I think that is the number one takeaway that you want to have when you're looking at this unit. They are a brick wall. They're a concrete wall. They're a goddamn castle wall crenellated with a moat and spikes sticking out of it. They are, by definition, unbreakable. And so the way you want to use Flagellant with all of these rules looked at is to try and just send them into something that you just want to stop. You just want them to just flat out just speed. It's not even a speed bump. It's just a full stop. It's an emergency stop. If the enemy has a unit of chosen Chaos Warriors dialed up to 11, kitted out to the nines with everything they can get their hands on, send the Flagellants in. That unit of Chaos Warriors is going to tear through anything that you send at them, and you might as well send at them something that they're going to have to kill every single one of. If you send a decently sized unit of Flagellants at something horrible, then it might take them 2 or 3 turns to cut through all of them. What if your opponent's got a big unit like trolls or a big giant or a zombie dragon or something like that? Yeah, you know what? We're just gonna send the Flagellants at it. And yeah, your opponent is going to try and avoid the Flagellants because they know what they can do. Or after the first game, they'll realize how sticky these guys are. But you can take advantage of that. Because at that point, you're seizing the initiative and you're dictating the flow of the game and you're making your opponent react to you. So Flagellants are one of those things that the first time your opponent faces them, they might not quite appreciate what they're going to do. But after that, they're going to have a lasting impact and they are going to be influencing the game. But the next special rule is not a buff. It is a little bit of a debuff. It's Impetuous. Now, Impetuous is a hot topic in the old world community. Some people see it as absolutely crippling. Some people see it as flavorful and fun. How it works is, if you're in charge range, you have to charge. If you don't want to charge, you have to roll a dice. On a 1 to 3, tough shit, you're trying that charge. On a 4, 5, or 6, you get to do what you want with the unit. Now, Impetuous is really annoying on those units that some people find it really annoying if it's on a high leadership unit because they feel like you should be able to like roll a leadership test. It shouldn't just be a flat 1 to 4. With Flagellants, obviously that would be a bit of an advantage. But the funny thing is about Flagellants and Impetuous is that, and in my experience, a lot of the units that have it kind of want to be charging anyway. You know, because they're combat units. There are some exceptions, and we'll get to those in later reviews. Like, you don't really want your Pistoliers running around charging people. But Flagellants, as we've seen, they've got flails and they've got furious charge. So there's no real issue. And they've got hatred. So there's no real issue with them running off and charging something. Yes, a savvy opponent will be able to try and kite them around the map. A savvy opponent might force them to charge something relatively insignificant, like 5 skirmishers. But the point is that they don't really mind charging off. They're a combat unit. Getting them stuck into combat, even if it's not a great target, is fine. And the reason why I think doubly so Impetuous isn't such a big problem is it's not like you can get baited into a charge, kill something relatively small, and then just get countercharged, cut down, flee, all that kind of stuff. No. If the enemy baits out your Impetuous unit when it's Flagellants, and they charge and they kill that small sacrificial speed bump, and the enemy countercharges them, well, that's fine, because you know what? You're going to be sticky, because you've got Unbreakable, because you're immune to psychology. So you don't really care. The Flagellants certainly don't care. As long as they're in there, swinging the flails around, having a great time, they really don't mind what's going on. And so Impetuous is a bit of a problem, and there will be some very high skill players which will ruin your Flagellants' day, kite them around. But I think by and large, for the majority of, for lack of a better term, normal games, just friendly games with your mates down in the battle bunker, down in the basement, down in the club, I think that Flagellants being Impetuous isn't going to be super debilitating. Now that covers all of the special rules from the main book. But we've still got 2 more that are on the Flagellants unit entry. The first one is Fanatical Zeal. This isn't really a buff or a debuff. It's just a way of being able to get characters to join the Flagellant. So a unit with a special rule can be joined by a Lector of Sigmar or a Priestess Sigmar. Now normally you couldn't do this because You can only join a unbreakable unit if you yourself, if the character itself has unbreakable, and none of the other Empire characters do, including Lectra Sigma or Priest Sigma. However, these are the only characters that can join this unit. A Lectra Sigma or a Priest of Sigma that joins with Flagellants is considered to have the Unbreakable special rule for as long as they remain with that unit. Note that a unit with the Unbreakable special rule normally cannot be joined by a character without it. This rule provides an exception that represents the fanaticism of the Sigma priesthood. So basically, you can take a Lectra or a Priest Sigma, add it to the unit, and everyone gets to stay unbreakable and have a great time. Now, briefly going over to the Warrior Priest of Sigma entry, and I'll be doing a proper deep dive on these guys in the video. There's a lot of potential here. Flagellants on their own can do a good amount of damage, and they're sticky as all hell with being unbreakable. But one of the things that they might struggle with is long-term damage. Once they've lost that, once the first round of combat is over, they're not going to be +2 strength, and they're not going to have hatred. The Warrior Priest of Sigma can help mitigate some of that. Firstly, Hammer of Sigma means that if you pass that, they have Prayers of Sigma, by the way, I should say, and these are abilities that can go off after you've done this. A Hammer of Sigma means that you can reroll 1 to hit and to wound. So even if after the first round of combat, you'll have some form of reroll in there. And reroll to hit rolls of 1 wound is pretty good. Means that even in the first round, those strength 5 flails, you could be wounding on 2s, rerolling. Shield of Faith is decent. It's a 5+ ward save, but it's only against shooting attacks. But considering your Flagellants have 0 armor, not a bad thing. But as we'll see with their Feel No Pain, they do have an inbuilt save. So I'm not sure Shield of Faith is that good. Soulfire is okay. D6 strength, 3 hits, AP -2. But I think really you're kind of looking at Hammer of Sigma there. And what you're also looking at really is the amount of magical equipment that you could bring. You could have a Warrior Priest of Sigma who's going to have 3 attacks on his own. You could give him some pretty beefy magical items. Go in there, you can take 100 points. You could just make him a real blender. I think if you're going to do it, you either go for the Lectra Sigma or you probably 110 points, but I'm not sure you'd bother out the Lectra because the regular Priest Sigma is only leadership 7, and it's only like a 50-50 chance that you get the prayers off. Take the Lectra, you're likely to get more likely to get the prayers off. That way you're more likely to do some good damage. I think there's 2 ways of looking at this. You go for the Lectra if you're aiming for the prayers. If you don't give a crap about the prayers and you're just looking to add a character in there with some good magical equipment to add a bit more punch to this unit, you go for the Priest of Sigma and you just give him 450 points, the biggest sword that you can find. However, to be abundantly clear, I'm not certain you're that bothered about fanatical deal. It's nice that you can add characters to the unit, but Flagellants are kind of expensive already. If you're taking a character on top of that, which could be adding hundreds of points to the unit, it's sticky, but it's getting to be a very, very expensive, sticky speed bump. The way I would probably run my Flagellants is in a more competitive sense. I just get as many as I can in the unit, but they can be sticky for as long as possible. Or if I'm going flavorful, I'm in a fun game where I just want to add some character, having a unit of Flagellants led by a Warrior Priest is very cool, very thematic. Finally, and truly I mean finally, we get to the last special rule that these bozos have, and that is Feel No Pain. A model with a special rule has a 6+ ward save against wounds suffered that were caused by non-magical enemy attack, or they get a 5+ ward save against wounds caused by a non-magical attack with a strength 5 or higher. It's very similar to how like the Blessing of the Lady for Bretonia. Now, considering Flagellants have no armor, this 6+ ward save, 5 ward save is pretty good. It's not going to save many of them though. I mean, you are fishing for 6s. I do like the feel of it though. Like the harder you hit them the more fanatical they are, like, oh, I will not feel the pain, or like the things that are likely to be hitting them hard are things like monsters, so they're just like, yes, die for Sigma. Like, I kind of like the flavor of it. It's really good just because it gives them some kind of save, but don't rely on it to suddenly make them tanky. These guys are tanky because they just don't run away. They're not tanky because they can save anything. I do think that feel no pain, if you, in an ideal world, you're going to be taking advantage of that 5+ side of it quite a lot, because you want to be sending Flagellants in against those really horrible, gnarly things in your army, things that are going to be high strength, things like monsters and really elite cavalry and infantry choices. So yeah, I think that the 5-up ward save is going to be more common than you think, but definitely against things like shooting, you're going to be fishing for 6s a lot of the time. But that finally covers everything about the Flagellants. And as you can see, they're a really, really cool, interesting, flavorful, thematic unit, but they're also really powerful. They are truly unbreakable, and that is how you want to see them. There are a lot of stuff in the Empire that can hold the line, but there's always a chance it's going to run away. State troops are decent, but they've got leadership 7, and they need expensive characters to take them above that. Great swords are great, but they're only stubborn. So after the first round, they might be breaking as well. Tough call. Flagellants, on the other hand, are truly just the ultimate tar pit. They are the ultimate tar pit in the Empire for sure. And you can send them into anything, whether it's enemy light infantry, at which point the amount of attacks that they can generate and the strength and the AP, they're going to be tearing through them. Or you can send them into elite stuff, and they don't need to kill a lot to still do the job. Just holding things in place so you can kill the other stuff around the army. Really, really valuable. I wouldn't be surprised if Flagellants become a common sight in the competitive Empire armies, because they just give you a really solid infantry choice. And you need that in Empire, because your line needs to hold whilst your war machines, like your cannons, go to town. Unfortunately, there is one potential Achilles heel with Flagellants, and that is they are a rare choice. So up to 25% of your army's point value may be spent on rare choices. So in a 2,000 point game, that's going to be 500 points. Now, considering that there are a lot of really good choices in the Empire rare section, you've got steam tanks. They're 265s. They're taking up more than half of your allowance. And then you've got Hellblaster volley guns, which you want to take 2 of as well, because they're only 120 points. With Empire relying on those war machines, it might seem like whilst you want to take the Flagellants, first thing you're going to be looking at is that steam tank and the Hellblaster volley gun, and there just might not be many points over after that. There might be 10 at best if you're lucky. I don't know. I think it's going to come down to how you build army. If you have not taken as many cannons and mortars, and instead you have gone for things like Hellblasters and steam tanks, then you're not going to be taking the Flagellants. But if most of your artillery is coming from your special section, and you're taking like 6 great cannons, which you can do that at 2,000 points, then that will leave you plenty of space to fit in some Flagellants. I do think it would be an interesting list that took advantage of the fact that there's no 0 to 1 on Flagellants. It's just the maximum you can get is 500 points worth in a 2,000 point army because of the 25% rare allocation. 500 points of Flagellants. Well, a squad of 20 of them is 260. So you could get just under 40 of them in a 2,000 point army. 40 Flagellants? That is... Oh, that's pretty good. If you took maybe like 2 squads of 18, 19s, took a lector at each one, that's a lot of unbreakable in. That's a lot that your opponent's going to have to chew through, whilst it is doing quite a lot of damage back at them. Well, at least that's what I think. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below. Is the NIGH and you're going to be taking lots of flagellants, or will you be using your rare points allocation for the war machines instead? And if you did take a Priest of Sigmar with your flagellants, what equipment would you give him? Don't forget that if you've enjoyed this video to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, and they have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a big shout out to Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Thank you guys so much. Your incredible generosity is a massive part of how I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time, and it is a big driving force behind the channel. But I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.